Well, I want to say having both of you here together is a real joy. As a team, when it comes to making music, it's a triumphant collaboration. This album is amazing, start to finish, everything that I think people could have hoped for when they read that you guys were working together.
It was interesting because the last track on it was originally a different song, so we were almost like completely committed to the album. It was called it's called Times of My Life, but now it's Play This When I'm Gone. Um, so there was like I guess like a week ago essentially or 2 weeks ago they called and they were like, hey, there's a Tom Petty similarity between Learning to Fly and your song, and it like I mean because we had done the same thing where we had listened front to back and we're like, oh, wow, this is a it's a complete album. And then the moment happened where we couldn't use it, and then Trav was like, throw Play This When I'm Gone in there, and that was that moment when I recorded that song. The studio was like dead silent and really like heavy, and that was a song that Trav encouraged me to write. I actually started writing it. I wrote 2 or 3 lines and then stopped, and I asked him to move on to another song to record, and we recorded like 2 songs of that song, and he was like, "No, man, go back to the other song."
What made you want to stop writing that song? Before I ask Travis what made you want to ask him to carry on, I need to know what made you want to stop writing it.
Because it's essentially like saying it's a letter kind of that was saying goodbye to my daughter for whenever that time comes, you know?
Too much.
Yeah.
Travis, recognizing that the path to true authenticity is through true vulnerability, and you've been there and you've experienced that. That comes with experience. How did you encourage Kelly to revisit that song and to see it through?
Well, it was kind of in the beginning or middle of making the album, and we had started. I had like this loop idea that my friend had sent me, and I was like, well, this guitar thing really, I don't know, just feels like something right from the get go. And then we started writing, and we started talking about, we both been in those situations where we made horrible decisions, and sometimes some that would maybe take us away from our family and our friends indefinitely. um, so we started writing it, but I think it was like kind of like such a downer. Kel's, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like he was like, "Yo, let's do something upbeat and fun," and I was like, but I just got chills for the last 20 minutes we were writing the song and we were working on this song. So we went back to it and finished it.
Started as a letter. I wrote my daughter a letter the night before. My chest was heavy. There was all this. It was really gnarly, and I was telling Trav about it the day after, being like, like last night I thought I almost croaked, man, and like, I was writing this whole thing out in my notes pad, like, so that I was gonna send to my daughter, and like we throughout talking about it, he was like, you gotta go in and say that. So I mean, even just re-saying all this, I'm so glad that we went with that as the last song, because that just has such a it was so deep rooted.
Oh yeah, and even just the way you filtered it down. You kept the vocal going and the sentiment of "I miss you," and you filtered it so that it's eternal.
That's crazy that you noticed that, because like I didn't want it to be filtered out, and Travis was like, "No, filter it out because it'll sound like they're putting you like almost like in a coffin," and you're like, dude, that's so weird that you noticed that. That's crazy. I remember going back and forth with Trav on that. Okay, cool.
The album starts in the most beautiful way possible. It lays out the stall immediately. What it does is it throws into question the intention behind all of it.
Yeah, I actually got really, really mad yesterday when reading a review that was like, "Oh, it's a great like has great like pop catchy tunes or whatever," and I was just like, "God, you just missed it. You just missed it. It's so brutal. It is so like it's such a diary of someone going in and out of like sanity and like and vanity and all of these other things that you're just you know." I'm so glad you caught that, man. I mean, to me, the 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 best part about it was that you can like play it and like hear it amongst all of the other things you're doing in your house and in your life, but like if you listen to it, it like it cut.
You couldn't have picked a better partner to work with on this, because if somebody understands the idea of being misunderstood in terms of how people perceive his band on the surface versus how deep that band have gone historically, it's Travis.
I think with this album, with Tickets, and obviously with Blank, at first listen, you hear these songs that are upbeat and almost sound happy, but then they have the darkest undertones, and they're telling, the darkest, most unfortunate story, And I feel like with Kells and Tickets, it's a roller coaster of that.
But it's funny because in actually acknowledging that this is kind of part and parcel with who you've become, this person who inspires this adoration, but really, what are they adoring? Are they adoring the real you, or are they adoring the car crash?
I was coming from a place of feeling like everyone already counted me out anyway. So this was like an album where it was like I'm with my dream collaborator, I'm with my like also my big bro. I'm like learning life things, and I'm kind of just like we didn't have a purpose for making the album. You know, no label was in a rush to get a Machine Gun Kelly album, and it wasn't like Trav was like, yeah, dude, I got to get this off my brain. It was like it was almost like the universe already wrote this album, and it just figured out two conductors to make it happen.
Yeah, for sure. Travis, you said something before, which I just kind of want to thoughtfully and empathetically dive into a little bit, which was there were moments of real joy making this record, and there were moments of real challenge, and moments when you felt like, through the process of making music, you were concerned about Callie's health and state of mind. And so I want to put that to Callie and ask you, someone, we've had honest conversations about the fine line between art and mental health and how there really isn't a line. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the learnings and some of the ground you covered whilst making this record.
I found a much different relationship with my friends and family, and my daughter most importantly, because there was a point where I was recording it, I was just on drunk autopilot. Like I was just like showing up on the studio with Trav, and like that was my comfort place. Like I would just come and like lay sprawled out on the couch for a second and just like get straight up and just go like record a million lines and like take an Adderall and drink a million coffees, and like and when I left Travis's, I would feel lost again, and I would drive 120 miles an hour home and hope that I get there. And when I got there, I would just be like, I just can't wait to get back to Travis's. So I'm just gonna go out again, and I'll wait till my body forces me to go to sleep. And then it got to a point where like, dude, like later on during the album, it was like I was dropping my kid off to play with Travis's kids, and like that, and like I was getting to see how his home life is like the model for what someone like me should be going, you know what I mean? Like going to achieve. And like, then I found love, and then I found, then me and Travis would go on runs together, and like, he would be getting my mental together. And with that being like, nah, like, just real OG stuff. And like, now we go to grocery stores and get fresh juices together. You know what I mean? So like the
it's been more than an album.
Yeah, bro.
It's been a lifestyle change.
I have Travis to ultimately thank for all of that. So it went much deeper than the music, and that was because he opened his heart and his home up to me. Because it could have obviously just stayed music, but I needed like that figure in my life. You know what I mean? I needed like a big homie to calm me down.
Travis, tough question, but I know that you and I have enough of a history that it's coming from a good place. When you're in an environment where you're recording somebody and you're collaborating with them, and it's a deep and personal experience, and you see that they're leaning into that creative space as a means of distraction, to some degree as a coping mechanism rather than a release. And and that's a dangerous place to be. Before you were able to kind of nurture him through this, were there moments when you were concerned that making this album was to some degree enabling his behavior?
I mean, I've obviously been there, so I was watching him, and we were almost, I would share stories and stuff to, in the beginning of the album where I was living very recklessly, and whether it be with like girls or drugs or whatever, and we had a lot in common, too much in common. And then during the process of this, I saw him, like he had said, like it went from, like burning the candles at both ends, and being able to come and write to, I think like, and I was there too, not knowing how I would write or how I would do my everyday bullshit without all the drugs and without all the self-medication. And then I saw, especially when his daughter would come visit, a different side of Kells. And I mean, I think not even thinking about it, the best thing I could do is lead by example. Like I could still be in the studio, I could still make great albums and have crazy fun times with my friends, but I don't have to do it at the
at the expense of somebody's well-being. Yeah,
hurting myself or those around me if something happens to me. And then I really watched him grow all the way to the end, to like the last few months where he's fallen in love, and this relationship means more than anything to him. And obviously his relationship with his daughter has always meant the world to him. and just I've just seen the lifestyle change without me ever having to be like have that rough whatever awkward conversation with him. I just watched him grow over the last 6 months in a pace that I've never seen anybody kind of grow like that, and just proud of him.
Tickets to my downfall. Yeah, yeah. Roll up, and come see the circus of demise. But it's really ultimately it's really only gonna end in your demise, because guess what? Living vicariously is the worst way to live. So with that being said, it leads us to an interlude, which where that message is present. The last line being, and I can't. I'm so sorry. I'm terrible. I have to paraphrase. But when it's time for me to say goodbye, I don't want to close my eyes and feel like I haven't lived. It's a really tender moment. It's you and your current partner, and it's one of those things that I think ultimately, to some degree, informs your journey, which is a life well lived, whether it's destructive or productive.
Yeah, but I didn't know what I meant till you just said that. That's what I meant. Whoa, that's crazy.
This is that moment where it's just like, all right, cool. If I have to grow forward, I have to make a record that helps me do it, right? Because that's the only outlet you have to support you.
Jeez, yeah, yeah.
You can't help who you fall in love with. You simply can't do that, and yet you find yourself in a situation where you are in that environment where privacy it comes at a cost. How are you finding the balance between protecting what is ultimately yours? Genuine question. What matters to you? What is your personal right to be able to experience based on how you feel, versus what the rest of the world wants out of this?
I think it's kind of like the album where it's just like it's not on me to shelter anything anymore. Like I think it's like we are a vessel to even show love. Like Tickets to My Down, like that interlude. I put that on there because I was like, man, like we just as much as we encourage like this lifestyle that Travis and I grew up in, where it's just like fast life, fast girls, fast drugs, all that. Like let there be love in there too, man. Like that would be sick to see a generation of kids fall in love. Like those moments are great moments. Like I'm 30 years late on it, but man, I'm so glad it happened. You know what I mean? Like
You're right on time. One of the sort of key collaborative moments on the record is you and Halsey. Again, a couple that was much talked about, written about, whatever, truth or false, doesn't really matter. The point is the chemistry on the song is really evident. And it finds Halsey really pushing that tone that she has, which for me is one of the sort of most stealth and credible tones in modern music today. Like when she sings in her natural zone, it is like, shut up shop, go home. I know your name's on the record, but it's not your record anymore. And you really sort of pushed her into a space where she's spitting. How was that experience working with her and getting her to step outside of her comfort zone, which is a fucking dope zone, by the way?
Took her 5 minutes to write that verse, dude. Tell you that much. She was in it. That was the quickest feature session I've ever had in my life. She came in, and I have on camera the moment when she tried to do a low tone. I've wasted so much time, and we were all like, okay, sick, like this is dope. And then dude, the next take she was like, let me try higher. I wasted some, dude. We all were like, what was that? Like, that's it, do that.
She's fucking pissed.
It was so good, dude, so good. She might have one taked it, dude. She it was crazy.
Yeah, she pretty much did. She was in the booth maybe 10 minutes, and what's crazy is we had another song that we had wrote that we were like, oh, this would be cool for Halsey. And I think like, did you even send it to her, Kels?
No.
And it was just, like, I think we knew. And then we were working on this up-tempo song, and I was like, yo, this is the song we should put Halsey on, whatever. And like, I think you sent it to her that night. The next day she came in, was in the booth like 10, 15 minutes tops, and the song was finished.
Bro, I almost felt like she was randomly passing your studio when I called her, because she remember, she pulled up in like 30 seconds. She was like there in 30 seconds. So like I think we were really lucky, man, like with just how all the feet. Same with Trippy. Like Trippy, we had a whole different song for Trippy. And Trippy came. Trippy was like, "Yo, I'm actually close to y'all. You want me to come by?" This was at like 1 a.m. after I promised Trav he could go home. Speaking.
No,
of
dude, this was 5 a.m.
5 a.m. Yo, hey, it's exactly like what you said, where you're like, "It's nice to see Trav."
Travis, if you want to take the big chair then you got to do the big hours. And you know that, right? Like,
Oh, dude.
this from a guy who spent a majority of his life until he started producing, coming in 3 days, probably one day, going perfect, 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 and then going while Mark and Tom have to slave over riffs, and you're just like, I'm out. So now it's payback time, Trav.
Payback, dude.
A lot of the magic on this album happened at like 3 or 5 in the morning most of the time, which was cool.
Dude, Zane, I'm literally like, Trav, after this song, like I promise, like I know it's been a long day, like we can just wrap up. This is around 1:00. Trippy hits me like, yo, I'm about to come through, and I look at Trav, I'm like, yo, we did want him on this though. That would be so clutch. Like we should just wait.
Wait, is this your cell? Is that what you do? I just got a real insight into how Cal's sells the picture.
Oh yeah, this is me selling. Oh, I totally.
Oh man, Chibi just caught. I mean, yo, we did talk about it though, man. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's on you, but I'm just saying we did discuss it.
But we did just have this whole talk. So I mean, if it doesn't happen, it's because of you, Trav. So like, you know so Trav's like, I'm seeing Trav kind of like hit the like 2. It's 2 a.m. now. We called him an hour ago. So I'm like, I call Trippy, or I FaceTime Trippy. I'm like, what up, dude? He's eating. I'm like, oh, you weren't on your way? He's like, yo, I just ordered Bossa Nova. Like, I'm on my way as soon as I eat. Bro, he comes through at like 3:45 in the morning. Trav's like dead. Dude, I forgot about this. We play the song. Trippy doesn't like the song. He's like,
oh, at this point, Travis is just literally standing up and like adjusting himself, looking for his keys. Like he's half out the door.
And that song is like, to rewind back, the song we played him is the reason why we had originally got in the studio too. Because when I came to see you and Thug, you had been like, yo, Trav, I've been working on some like cool rock music with Trippy. And I was like, oh, Fax, play it for me.
And he played it was his track.
I was like, oh, that's my track. Like I gave that to Tripp, and he's like, oh, let me play another one. And then I'm like, oh, that's mine too. And then we were like, yo, we should get in. And we were trying to finish one of those tracks that night.
This is where I'm going to tell you the truth. Travis, ever get the feeling you've been cheated? He knew all along they were your beat. This is what Cal's does. Cal's walks in, the bottle blonde with the doe eyes, and is like, yo, I had no idea. The whole thing is written on his fucking forearm in biro.
There's probably some facts to that, Zay. There's probably facts to that.
There's no question that your chemistry is amazing, and that the two of you, you add value to each other in ways that complements. And so I hope that whatever you choose to do individually, you find a way back together.
Zay, thank you, bro.
Peace.
Later.